In this tutorial, you'll discover how to create moody, natural-looking portraits outdoors using fill flash. In this case, I've used the Godox Ad200 with the Elinchrom Rotolux Deep octabox. Now, this sort of photography can be used in multiple ways. You can use it for corporate portraits, advertising, lifestyle, editorial, and also moody, dramatic portraits. Here's the location. It was early. It was about 7:30 in the morning when I shot this on a summer's day. And so now you can see that I'm shooting on the beach, but I do have my model. So it's bright light, but I've got my light and my model set up in the open shade. That makes my life easier. I'm not having my model squinting in the sunlight. And it's just a lot more comfortable for everyone, and the lighting is a lot easier to control when you don't have harsh sun on someone's face. Now, another thing to consider whenever you're doing a moody portrait like this is you want to match the existing light so that it doesn't look fake or dropped in. So basically, what you want to look for is visual cues that will tell you where the light's coming from. And in this instance, you can see, if I just freeze this frame now, you can see that the light is coming from above and going from right to left. So you can see it's coming from above and going from the right of screen to the left. And that's where I want to place my octabox so that it matches the existing sunlight. Now, as I said, this tutorial, the principles of this tutorial can be shot using continuous light, if you've got a bright enough light, a speed light, or any studio flash or portable flash. I've used the Godox Ad200. Currently, I think it's one of the most versatile lights that you can own, particularly if you're going to be shooting portraits, headshots, commercial work on location. It's a fantastic entry-level light, and it's also incredibly easy to carry around. And the thing that I love about this particular light over most speed lights is the battery is rechargeable, and it does have a lot of flashes in it, so you can easily I don't think I've ever run out of battery on a job, even though I do have 2 batteries for this particular light. But what I love about it is the size, so the unit can actually fit in your pocket. It's very light, so you can easily have it in your camera bag with a couple of lenses, not very heavy, so great if you're shooting on the run, and easily mounts onto a small boom stand. And the other thing that I love about this particular flash over all other speed lights is the fact that you've got 2 options. So this little head that you see here, you can interchange the 2 heads. So you've got, first up, you've got a Fresnel head, and a Fresnel head is what you get in all speed lights. And basically what this means is that you can actually focus the beam of light. And I've explained this in many other tutorials, but you can make the beam very wide, like at 24 millimeters, so that the spread of light is very wide, and the angle of view that the light is spreading light is very wide. Or you can narrow that beam of light and make it very narrow. And I think on the Godox Ad200, you can narrow it all the way down to 200 millimeters. So it will go from a very wide beam to a very narrow beam. And this is particularly handy if you don't want to light an entire area. You just want to place a very narrow, small dook of light into someone's face or into a particular product. So that's the beauty of this light. But just know, because it's you're focusing the light, it's also going to give you a harder edge, which can be useful if you want to replicate something like hard sunlight, which when you notice the shadows, it does have that hard edge. The other interchangeable head, and this is what I'm using today, is this the bare bulb flash that you get. So it's basically the entire head that you can swap over, and you can also remove the bulb in case you drop it or something. There's also a protective case that you can get for that as well, just to keep it handy. Now, this light, because it's a bare bulb, imagine how the light is emitted from if you've got a bare bulb in the ceiling of your home and there's no diffuser on that. You turn that light on and basically light bounces everywhere, forwards, to the sides and backwards. So it's, omnidirectional. It goes in every direction. So, like, at a glance, you can see that the Fresnel light is going to give you a harder light source, and you can vary that from very narrow to very wide just by changing the zoom. And there's tutorials on doing that in the Gold community if you want to check those out. And the other, the bare bulb splashes light in every direction. So the light that you get is truer to the kind of light that a studio light emits, so studio flash. So this is why I like this particular light. Perfect for outdoor shoots, and it sends this lovely sort of spray of light in all directions, which you can then modify or corral that light in using a light modifier. Now, the light modifier that I'm using today is the Elinchrom 70 centimeter deep octa. The reason I love this is because it's double diffused, it's extremely portable, and I can use this with my Godox 200 AD, or I can use it with a larger light source if I need more grunt. And definitely love the silver interior, which bounces around a beautiful light. And the way I like to use this light, so you can see here you've got the two diffusion panels. So you've got one on the outside and then one on the inside there. So the double diffusion. And then what you've got is, when you have a look at the inside, there's my light there with the omnidirectional light there, the bare bulb inside the light. So you can see that you've got the silver insert, so that bounces and pushes a lot more light forward, and you've got light bouncing all around. So lovely, soft, beautiful light, and also helped by the fact that we've got two layers of diffusion to get through there with this particular light. All right, so let's have a look at my thought process behind lighting and setting up this shot. So first of all, I just want to run through the lighting for this image and how to create this sort of moody style of lighting that also blends in with the environment and looks natural. So you can see that I've matched the angle of my light to the angle of the sunlight. Next step is to work out how I want my shot to look, and here's my thought process behind that. If we tried to take a natural light exposure, just switch the camera on to automatic and try and get a decent shot in these conditions where I've got my model in the shade, and outside of the shade it's a bright sunny day, but there's a fair bit of light bouncing around, but we've got sort of this beautiful bright blue sky as well. Getting the best of the average of everything, we can see that there's detail here in the skin tone, like we can still see her face and everything, and we can see a little bit of detail there in the sky, so that we can tell that she's on the beach on a bright day. But overall, there's no drama really in this image. The lighting is really flat and kind of quite uninteresting. So the problem is, if I go to, let's say I switch over to manual mode now, and let's say that I wanted to bring in all this beautiful detail in the clouds. If I drop my exposure, so let's just say I'm shooting this at f5.6 at 1/200th of a second, ISO 100, and I close down to f8, I'm starting to immediately get a lot more detail in the sky and in the highlights, but look what happens to my model. All right, now this is really important when we're working out what you want to capture in an image. And this is why I stress that this protocol, rather than just going in, setting up the shot and throwing in the flash first, it's really important to establish a baseline exposure and to have a real think about how exactly you want your image to look. So if you wanted to create a bright white lifestyle-y look, then maybe daylight's for you, and you're just going for beautiful skin tone and you let the background go. That's perfectly fine to shoot like that, and we see a lot of lifestyle work shot like that, and particularly a lot of fashion work is shot like that. So early in the morning, when the difference between your brightest point and your darkest point is very low, so you'll capture a lot of the detail. And even shooting at midday like this, where you capture the skin tone, so you actually deliberately expose for the skin tone and let the background go, you'll get this sort of very high fashion kind of lifestyle look. Now, if you're after more drama, then you really want to think about, first step is, how do I want my background to look? So if I drop my exposure down to around, say, f8, like that, I'm going to get something that brings in beautiful detail in the sky, but what happens is I'm losing the detail in the face. But that's okay, because I can bring light back in and light that up. So at this stage, I want to establish how I want my background to look. And for me, I like a moodier background. I want some drama. So I'm going to close all the way down to f16. All right. And that's what I get. That's the look I get. Now, basically, I've got my sky looking super dramatic. I've even picked up, see, once you darken the sky down, you get this lovely color that comes in. Even this was still pretty early in the morning. I think it was around 7:30 a.m. And you start to pick up all the detail, and you've got those beautiful wispy clouds there, but I've lost all the detail in my model. So this is what I want to bring back, and what I want you to pay particular attention to is that this is going to become, the darkest point of my model is now going to become my shadow detail. So let me tell you what I mean by that. All right, so here's a behind the scenes of my setup. So you can see I've got my Godox Ad200 in the Elinchrom octabox, and this is an expensive octabox. There are Godox knockoff versions that I think are just as good, so have a look out for those. But so you can see that I've actually matched the direction of my fill light, the flash, to match the direction of the sunlight. And I've used the shadows as my tell. So you can see that the light is coming down from the top and lighting her across the frame. So that is the behind the scenes setup. Now, we can actually control the look of the light a bit more, and you can modify the shutter speed to change how much ambient light is in the shot. So you can make it a little bit brighter, or you can make it a little bit darker, and you can actually control the look of your shadows. All right, so the lighting process is very simple. Here's my before, here's my after. Now, lighting wise, I've got my Godox Ad200 with the Electron Deep Octa. The Godox is set to full power, and I'm shooting at f16 ISO 100 1/200th of a second. Now, what I want you to pay close attention to is this shadow here on the face. And if we have a look at the shot without any lighting, you can see that this is our base exposure. So the light doesn't make it all the way over to the side of the face. Now, obviously, you're going to get some fall off, and you will lighten up that shadow a little bit, but this is what gives you the shape, the mood, the contouring of the body, and gives it that natural look. So where it looks unnatural is if we light too flat on outside, and it kind of gives that that cardboard cutout look. It just looks fake. So that little hack of really noticing what direction the sun is coming from and adding a little bit of shadow is really going to add mood and depth. And the one thing that you want to have about your images is that people look at them and they can't tell that they've been lit. All right, so you can control how dark or light the shadows are and how dark or light your background is using your shutter speed. Shutter speed controls ambient. So here's my original exposure, f16 1/200th of a second, ISO 100 at full power. If I slow down my shutter speed to 1/100th of a second, f16 ISO 100, you can see that shadow now has become a lot lighter, slower shutter speed, letting in more ambient light. I'm controlling the shadow, so I can make the shadow a lot brighter. Not everyone loves that moody look, so now I've given it a lift, and again, 1/60th of a second here, it's brighter again, and you'll notice the background is brighter. Everything else stays the same. The Godox is still set to full power, f16 is still my aperture, ISO 100 is still my ISO. All I've done is change the shutter speed, and I've radically changed the look of my shot. So that's something that you want to think about. Once you've got your base exposure in place, play with the shutter speed. You can slow it down if you want to open up those shadows a little bit more and allow more ambient light into your shot. And finally, I just want to share a little behind the scenes look at setting my model up and getting her in place. With these lifestyle character portraits that I do, I give them a starting point as a base. I'll direct where I want them to look and the sort of energy that I want them in, and then I let them relax into the pose. I set up. So hands on hips, that's it. And I might get you to have the bathing cap and the...
In the one hand?
Yeah, in the one hand. That's it. That's lovely.